Violence and discrimination based on sexual orientation and gender identity are unfortunately prevalent in every region of the world. My mandate has been able to document significant levels of killings, torture, mistreatment, and social exclusion from all realms of social life. Of course, there are areas and regions in the world where the discrimination and violence are not only condoned, but actually sponsored by the state. As of today, there's 70 countries that still criminalize sexual orientation, 10 of them with the death penalty. In countries in which criminalization is no longer existing, there are remnants of pathologization or what we call demonization, the idea that LGBT people are sinful by nature or sick by nature. And these notions have carved deep grooves in the consciousness of persons and lead to significant violence and discrimination everywhere in the world. The judgment of the Inter-American Court in the Azul case is extraordinary for several reasons. First, because it carries out a holistic analysis of the circumstances in which violence and discrimination are nurtured. Second, because it actually addresses the notion of prejudice that lies at the root of acts of discrimination and violence and provides a legal reasoning and a legal theory that will be used, I am sure, for years and decades to come to understand how to best deal with cases of torture and mistreatment that are based on particular stigma in relation to sexual orientation and gender identity. And the third reason is that it actually establishes a comprehensive program for reparations that goes from the individual, in the case of the victims, but moves into the whole condition and context in which the acts were perpetrated. And in a way, the program of reparations that it carries out becomes a blueprint for the state as to how to combat violence and discrimination. It is fundamental that it's understood that oftentimes violence has exclusively the purpose to punish a person because of their quote-unquote otherness. That is the idea that their existence or their expression is transgressive of what is perceived to be a desirable norm in relation to sex or gender. And therefore, that in itself becomes the cause for violence. And the judgment establishes that principle quite clearly. My mandate has been following very, very closely actions of states in the context of the pandemic. And amongst the trends, I have determined that certain states are using the pandemic either as an excuse or as a form of covering measures directly addressed against the LGBT community with the purpose of enacting discriminatory motives. This judgment of the core of the Inter-American Court in the Azul case clearly provides a tool to understand those processes of discrimination, to dissect them, and in a way that it's almost forensic in nature, to understand what are the elements that are present in these processes. It will be enormously important and useful for the future.